Hi there. I'm guessing if you're tuning into this video, you're probably not feeling the greatest right now. And you're curious to see other people's struggles during pregnancy, or just hoping to find some sort of solace in the fact that you're not alone in feeling this way. So that's why I wanted to create this video, because my pregnancy has been mentally taxing, physically taxing on me, and it was not at all what I expected pregnancy to be. If I'm looking down, it's because I have my notes. I wanted to make sure I didn't forget anything. But when I first found out I was pregnant, I thought it's going to be great. It's going to be how I see in, social media and photos and movies. And it's just this wonderful experience. And honestly, my pregnancy hasn't been a wonderful experience. I mean, it's wonderful that I am pregnant. It's wonderful that we were trying and we succeeded. And this is my first time ever being pregnant. So I am extremely grateful to God that I am able to have a child. And I want to make sure that is known, because I don't want to sound like I'm completely ungrateful. I just want to tell my story and be truthful in the fact that it's not easy. It was not easy. It's still not easy. I'm 39 weeks pregnant tomorrow, and my due date is on Thanksgiving. So I really hope it doesn't happen on Thanksgiving. I'd rather her not have to share a birthday with a holiday, but besides that, one thing that I struggled a lot with as well is comparing my situation to other women who had emergency C-sections or had difficulties that I may not have experienced, and feeling like my experiences were somehow downplayed because other women have had it harder than me. And I felt guilty for feeling bad and felt like I was complaining. Basically invalidating my feelings. And it's been work to overcome that, because you know what? Everyone's journey is different, and the way that things affect you as a person is valid. So if you're having a hard time, just because someone else had a different hard time does not make yours any worth any less. And then the other thing I keep telling myself, and maybe, you need to hear it too, because you're probably you may get to this point, or you're at this point where you're like, I'm done being pregnant. This baby's never coming. These last few weeks are just dragging on. The baby will come, whether it's naturally or you have to get induced. Do what your doctor says. The baby will come, and this will eventually come to an end. And you will recover from pregnancy and then raise a child, and a whole new world of things will happen for you then. But that's what I keep having to tell myself, because I feel like this pregnancy is never going to end. But so I wanted to tell you my journey and a lot of the things that I went through in my pregnancy. And one thing to realize is, yes, the pregnancy is going to affect you in some way or another, but another thing was all the external factors of life affecting me as well. I had a lot of things happen to me during my pregnancy, unfortunately, that I could not control, that just made it that much harder than it already was for me. So I'll start with the first trimester. I found out I was pregnant in March. The same week that we fostered a German Shepherd. And we fostered a German Shepherd on Monday. We got her on a Monday, and then I found out I was pregnant that Friday. So it felt like God was raining blessings down on us, because we so wanted to get pregnant, and then we also so wanted to foster this German Shepherd. We knew we were going to keep her, so it was going to be a foster failure. And it was the first time we've ever done this. It's not the first time I've owned a German Shepherd, but she's important to our story, to my story. When we got her, she was elderly, she was shut down and needed medical help and attention and someone to take care of her. And she was a dog that was unadoptable. Nobody was ever going to adopt a dog like that. Nobody wants to adopt a dog like that. Most people want puppies and healthy dogs, and who wants to deal with that? Well, we're the type of people who do. So when we saw her, we were like, we have to get her out of there. Her days were counting down. You know, the shelter was going to put her to sleep. So we took her. And then I found out I was pregnant. So now we have a new dog in the house, and new challenges there. And I start feeling very sick. I got really bad morning sickness all day. It lasted all day, every single day. My whole first 3 months I was sick. And I couldn't eat. I had massive food aversion to everything. Everything. I could not eat. And the only thing for 3 months, I lived off of grits and baked potatoes. That was it. And a lot of ice water. I was craving very cold water. So that helped me. That just made me feel more weak than I was already feeling. It felt like I was whittling away. Felt like I was dying slowly. And I couldn't do anything. I couldn't even work. And luckily, I'm self-employed. I'm a realtor and a real estate photographer. So I create my own schedule. And I ended up losing a lot of business because I couldn't work. And I again, thank God that I had the kind of job that I did, because had I had a normal job, I probably would have been fired. No one would accept me being gone from work for 3 months. Nobody. So, and in the beginning, there's no doctor's appointments. They're very far apart, at least where I am. It's not like they saw me regularly in the first trimester. So I would call my doctor and tell them how I'm feeling. And there was multiple calls to them where I was just bawling my eyes out because I felt like I was gonna die. I was so sick. And they would just suggest, keep eating, keep drinking. And then I started to develop a pain in my rib cage, just below where my rib cage ends. A pain so debilitating, it made everything worse than it already was. I couldn't do anything with that pain there. And I kept telling them about this pain, and they just said, eat. Okay, easier said than done at this point. When I finally saw my doctor, I was actually in the second trimester, just had begun it. And the second trimester begins, everyone's telling me, oh, as soon as the second trimester hits, you're gonna feel great again. Morning sickness is gonna go away. No, it didn't. It didn't go away for me. And I did not feel great. So finally went and saw my doctor and pointed out exactly where I was having this extreme pain that was prohibiting me from eating and prohibiting me from doing anything. It was so painful. And immediately the doctor's like, oh, you need to take a omeprazole or Prilosec, an antacid. And I was like, I called how many times to this office. I told you guys the pain I was feeling, and nobody thought of this sooner. So I started taking the omeprazole, and it was like magic. It was the magic pill. The pain started to go away. And with that, I started to be able to eat again, slowly but surely. And I'm already into my second trimester here. And I slowly start to gain strength back as I am able to eat more. And I decide, okay, I think I'm well enough to start taking some jobs again. So I like let the agents that use me for photography work know, hey, I'm back. Send your requests my way. And so I got 2 requests right away, one for a Thursday and then one for a Friday, and I accepted them. So Thursday came along, photos went great. Friday came along, photos went great. I was driving home from the house, and as soon as I got home, it was like a switch. Something just switched in me, and all of a sudden, I couldn't walk. So, backpedal 2 years ago from that point, I was in a car accident. Somebody had rear-ended me and damaged my sacrum. And I had been in chiropractic care since that car accident and not fully recovered. And when my pregnancy started, you know, I was still seeing the chiropractor like normal. And then all of a sudden, on this day when I came home from just getting back into working, I could not walk at all. It was as if I was just rear-ended that day. I was reliving the pain from when the truck hit me. And it was like, what is happening right now? So my doctor suggested I go to physical therapy, because it had been 1 or 2 weeks where I couldn't walk. So mind you, I had just gotten back into working, and now I can't walk. I could not walk. The pain was so bad. Taking stairs was excruciating. I had to use my left leg for each step, and then trying to like lift my right leg, I was like in tears. Getting into bed was painful. Rolling in bed, changing positions, going to the bathroom, everything was painful. And what I ended up learning was, it's in the 2nd trimester where your body starts to release a hormone called relaxin. And it's designed to loosen up your joints so that it can make way for the baby as it grows, so that your body makes way for the baby as the baby grows. Well, whatever stability I had in my sacrum and tailbone area was lost. And the injury was just exasperated by my pregnancy. And you know, had I not been rear-ended 2 years prior, I would not be experiencing this pain then. And what ended up happening was I ended up having to stay in physical therapy my whole 2nd trimester, well into my 3rd trimester, until I got to a point where I can walk again, and I'm too big to do much of anything else, and we're just gonna hold off for right now. But I ended up spending my pregnancy in physical therapy because of a car accident 2 years prior. So it was a massive blow to me that I just started working again, and now I have to stop again because I can't walk. It was starting to weigh on me. Like, I'm not going to be able to work throughout this pregnancy, and I'm not going to be able to make any money. And then financial burdens start to weigh on you too. So it's just like this roller coaster, like a domino effect of things that start to happen. And then on top of everything, during the time that I couldn't walk, I ended up accidentally stabbing my hand with a knife, trying to cut an avocado, and the knife went right through the whole avocado, right into my knuckle. So I had to have that stitched because it was pretty deep, and I had it all bandaged up, and now I have only one hand and one leg that works. There was a lot of crying involved during that time. And on top of that, what also happened in my 2nd trimester were nosebleeds. And I've never experienced nosebleeds in my life until then. And they would just happen whenever. I could be laying in bed doing nothing, and all of a sudden it start dripping down. I could be on the couch. All I did was stand up, and the motion of standing up caused a nosebleed. So it started to become like a nuisance. Like, oh my God, I can't predict when I'm gonna get a nosebleed, and they just happen whenever. And I had one night where I was crying myself up the stairs from the pain, climbing into bed in pain, with my hand all stitched up and bandaged, and nose bleeding. I felt super low at that point. Like, I'm not gonna make it through this. I can't walk. I don't have my right hand right now. And my nose is bleeding at the same time. That was a really tough night for me. It was like, what else is gonna pile on top of everything else? Like, but anyway, my hand eventually did heal, and physical therapy did start to help in the pain aspect of my back. Let's see, and that was in my second trimester. Oh yes, and that was when I also had my first emergency room visit, because the nosebleed that I had gotten one night, unfortunately was not stopping. And it was like, oh, all right, well, let's just go to emergency and see if they can do something about it. And they just gave me a nose clamp. So I kept the nose clamp with me throughout my pregnancy to stop the nosebleed. And those things are painful. After wearing them for a while, it starts to hurt. So I had my first emergency visit then as well. And eventually, towards some point in my second trimester, I was able to go back to work. But I couldn't go back to work alone. I was desperate to work, desperate to feel useful, like I could contribute. And the only way I could do that is if someone helped me. Because my back was still very messed up, I couldn't lift things. So I have camera equipment, I have stairs to take in houses, I have to walk the property with a ladder, and I needed the assistance of either the listing agent there with me to carry my things for me, the homeowner, which I would prefer not the homeowner because I felt guilty because I don't know them, or my husband. So in order for me to work, I had to have an assistant basically, so I could manage getting through taking photos. So that was also a little bit like slightly embarrassing, but everyone was very understanding and kind, and I'm thankful that they did that so that I could work. And the other thing in my second trimester I dealt with was having a hard time breathing. So I was carrying very high, and it's a common symptom of not being able to breathe. Your diaphragm has no room to go anywhere. So there was a lot of sitting, like back, arms up, like anything I could do to try and get a breath. I even had a inhaler because I have like sport onset asthma, so anything to help me try and get a good breath in. And eating food made it worse because my stomach now started to take up space, and after I eat, it was like I could not breathe at all. So that lasted through the second trimester as well. And it was just like not pleasant, you know, your everyday life, you just struggle to breathe. You get pain in your back. It starts to weigh on you. And, you know, I'm going through this quick, but this is like 9 months of just one thing after another. So it's been a long journey. And then it was in my second trimester as well. Mind you, it was the 4th of July. I went to show a house, and the buyer ultimately ended up buying this house. So I'm glad that I went on a holiday. Didn't matter to me. I wasn't doing anything anyway. To show the house, where she knew my back was injured and I'd probably be slow and limping, and she knew what I was going through. And what it turned out to be was another nosebleed. And the issue wasn't my back, it was my nose. I showed up at the house. I literally get out of the car, show up at the house, try to unlock the door, and my nose starts bleeding. just everywhere. I got it on my shirt. I got it on the concrete in front of the house. And I can't bend down. One of the things I couldn't do was bend over, reach, grab something on the ground because my back couldn't handle it. And I can't ask the buyer to clean up my blood for me. And I had to go through the whole showing with wads of Kleenex in my face because I left my nose clamp at home. So that was kind of the final straw. And I ended up telling my doctor and saying, please set me up to get my nose cauterized. And once they cauterize it, it should cure the nosebleed and stop it from happening again. And then it was also at the same time that our dog started to experience seizures, and we didn't know her health history. She was elderly. We don't know where she came from. She was just found as a stray. And we've at this point had her for 3.5 months. And unfortunately, after the 4th of July and some emergency vet visits, she was not recovering from her seizures, and we had to put her down. The same day that I had to have my nose cauterized, and the same day that we were planning on doing the gender reveal. So it was extremely hard on us to have to put her down because she was a wonderful dog and affected us in such a way that we never thought would happen in just short 3.5 months. She was a wonderful dog, and we gave her the best life possible for her last 3 months of life. So now having to deal with grief while you're pregnant, I was so worried. On top of trying to grieve and like trying not to grieve, I was so worried about it affecting my pregnancy. It was like grief and worry, grief and worry. So we, it kind of ruined our gender reveal. We wanted to do something fun and record something and send it to family. We just did a simple picture and that was it. And I felt guilty for that. I felt guilty for the fact that I felt like this was supposed to be a moment for our daughter, and I felt like it was taken from her, taken from us, because our dog had to be put down. And it's like, I'm not capable of feeling happy right now. I'm just not. So it was just another blow during my pregnancy, losing our dog. But by the end of the 2nd trimester, I had one good week. I had one good week where I had energy, and that's the week that I decided to work on the nursery, and we went hard at it. I painted the whole nursery myself because my husband was working a lot then. And after that week happened, I had no more energy. I am so glad I took advantage then, because it would have been impossible for the rest of the pregnancy for me to do anything. So by the 3rd trimester, it was like another switch. As soon as 3rd trimester hit, another switch. I felt bad all of a sudden, like really bad. And I didn't know how to explain it except that my whole body felt bad. Like I was hit by a train, like I was getting sick. Very sick, and my body had no strength in it. I had to like lay down when I'd get hit with those waves of feeling bad, just all of a sudden. And I had to start turning down work again because of how bad I felt. And there was one day that I woke up and immediately was feeling bad and heaviness in my chest. The heaviness was a new symptom, and last thing I wanted to do was go to the emergency room, because at that time I was feeling guilt for thinking that I was having a hard time when I knew other people were having a different type of hard time. I knew someone who had to have emergency C-section because they had placenta previa, I think what it's called, and had to give birth to their baby at like 28 or 29 weeks. And it became like a comparison. Like, I'm not going through anything like that. I should not be feeling this way. And I started to feel guilty for the fact that I felt bad, that I felt like I was having a hard time when clearly other people have harder times. So the last thing I wanted to do was end up in emergency room that day because I didn't want to seem dramatic and stupid. And I had woken up at 5 a.m. that day because I wasn't sleeping well, and had the heaviness. And I waited till 5 p.m. that day, hoping and praying it would go away on its own. It didn't. So I couldn't ignore it anymore at that point. And I had to call a nurse and talk to them, and they suggested I just go into emergency room. So I ended up in emergency, and I didn't even tell my husband. I didn't even tell him that I went to emergency room until I was in the emergency room, because I did not want to make a big deal about it. I did not want to seem like I was being paranoid and dramatic. So I was just making everything harder on myself by being hard on myself. But of course, they ran all these tests. They had to do a COVID test because of the heaviness in the chest. I was negative. They had to do a CAT scan of my lungs, all sorts of things. And everything came back negative. There was nothing wrong. And what did I do when I heard the good news? I broke down crying. I cried. It was backwards. I cried because they found nothing, because again, it was a waste of a trip. And my husband ended up leaving work and coming in, and I felt guilty again. And it's like, okay, why do I have heaviness then? What is going on? It was probably just iron deficiency, because my doctor told me to take iron supplements. And when I did, my breathing got better and I started to feel better and stronger again. It was just as simple as something like that. And I was just frustrated that I ended up in the emergency room again for nothing. And then a new thing started happening to me in my third trimester. This was about a month ago now. My mouth started to hurt very much. On the inside of my mouth, beyond where my teeth end, where the gums are in the back, where like your tongue like rests against your gums and like your jawbone, I started to get a very annoying and strong pain there, like a very localized pain. And I had a mirror and I looked. It looked like I don't know what it looked like, but what it was my gum was starting to recede and expose the jawbone, because your jawbone isn't smooth, it's rigid, and there's maybe some sharp edges and edges that stick up and out. And for some reason, my gum decides to want to recede and expose the bone, which exposed me to massive sensitivity to food and eating, and I couldn't eat on this side of my mouth anymore. My dentist suggested give it time, let it heal on its own. Well, it took a month before they decided that I needed a surgery done. So I'm like, I'm eating soft foods. I'm limited in my diet again because I can't eat anything crunchy, can't eat anything hard or difficult that requires a lot of jaw movement, because it hurts so much. And it was 2 weeks ago actually that I finally had the surgery done, and they had to cut open my gums and take a file and literally file my bone. It's the most disturbing experience. Hearing your jawbone getting filed down and feeling it, the vibrations in your head, and just, it was not pleasant. And they filed my bone smooth, and then they were able to stitch my gums back. So I had to dealing with healing healing my mouth, having stitches in my mouth. And I was just so tired, like so tired of all these crazy things happening to me during my pregnancy. It's like, why did that have to happen now? Like, why? And we were all worried because I could have given birth at any time, you know. 37 weeks, you're considered full term. You can have the baby at any moment. So it was like, let's get this done now so I don't have to deal with it or wait any longer to have it done then and suffer longer and not be able to eat well because of the pain. So at least it's out of the way. My mouth is healed and I'm able to eat normal again. But then I started to develop really bad swelling in my legs. I'm still dealing with it now. But one night I looked down and I saw that my right leg and my right foot was exploded and my left foot wasn't. So I had one leg that was extremely swollen and one that wasn't. And there's concerns in that. And again, I called the nurse because it could be a bad sign of a blood clot. And it's not something that you should ignore. But I felt, again, extremely guilty that I was calling the nurse and that she suggested I go to the emergency room. Of course, because all these things that happen, like the heaviness in the chest, my swollen leg, my nosebleed, all happens for some reason at night or on a weekend day. So the offices are closed and the only place I can go is emergency room. So it was, I don't know, a weekend day that my leg decided to blow up like a balloon. And so we had to go to emergency and I felt guilty for being there yet again for them to just determine. They didn't even do an ultrasound in my leg. That's what I was hoping they would do, just to rule out a blood clot. They just looked at my leg and like touched my toes and stuff and said that everything looks fine and it's just the pregnancy and it's the way the baby's laying and blocking blood flow and all this. And I'm like, another trip, another really expensive bill added to my tab. It was really frustrating and it's still frustrating that, but what can I do? I can't ignore it. I can't ignore the fact that I have one leg swollen and the other one not, when it could have been something serious. But it wasn't. Thank God. You know, again, I'm backwards in my reaction to the good news. It's like, I just wish that I didn't have to go to the emergency room to find out that there was nothing wrong with me. And I'm still dealing with the swelling now, but it was so bad last week that my OBGYN took a look. And she's the one who decided I get an ultrasound. I wasn't concerned anymore at this point, but she was. So we did end up eventually getting an ultrasound done and definitely determined that it's not a blood clot. So there's that. So at least I do have peace of mind now because I'm living with a permanently swollen right leg at this moment. And also, I can't fit in any of my clothes, not even my maternity clothes that I had. I had to buy this sweater new from Target and it's nice and baggy, but I feel like a sack of potatoes when I wear it. I'm in these you can't see it, pajama pants that I cut the elastic out of the band because I'm so close to giving birth. Why am I gonna spend money on on another pair of maternity pants to wear for like a week or two? So I feel pretty slobbish right now. I feel like I look really slobbish and like a bum. And it's really taking a toll on my self-esteem. Like, I don't know that I'll ever feel beautiful again or, you know, great about myself again. I just want my old body back at this point. So there's like, it's just like a lot of mental it's like a mental struggle throughout my whole pregnancy, dealing with all the crazy things that I had to deal with and the sad things that I had to deal with. There was a lot of guilt involved in my pregnancy. Not being able to work. I'm looking at my list again. The guilt of not being able to work or contribute, make money, and like even do like normal house chores. My husband has been cooking, has been doing so much around the house as well as working. And that makes me feel like poo. It really does. I feel useless and like I'm a burden at this point. And I'm just so ready to like gain my own independence back. And then there's the exhaustion. I'm constantly exhausted, which is a common symptom of pregnancy, but it doesn't make it any easier. And basically like depressed. I'm just depressed and down all the time because of all the things that I can't do. And I don't have that glow feeling. I never did get that glow, that pregnancy glow that people talk about. And I have friends, family telling me, just rest, take this time to rest. I feel guilty resting. Like I don't know how to enjoy just sitting and putting my feet up and doing nothing. I feel like I should be contributing in some way. So I don't know. That's basically my pregnancy journey so far. So tomorrow makes it 39 weeks I'm pregnant. And we talked about induction. I just saw my doctor today and we're not planning on one just yet. I'm gonna wait till next week, see what happens, because there's benefits to leaving the baby in. It's not like she's late or anything. She still has a whole week before her due date, and I don't want to force anything. I want a natural birthday for her, and by the time Thanksgiving rolls around and if I haven't had birth yet, then we'll do an induction, because I don't need to go any longer than that. I really don't. So she gave me words of encouragement to last this last week. So, because I'm very done. I'm very done. And I hope that listening to my story made you laugh at some points. Like stabbing my hand from an avocado, like oops. But most of it has just been little struggle after little struggle that piles on and piles on. And if that's something that's happening to you too, oh, I'm really sorry it's happening, but I don't know, we're never given anything we can't handle. And obviously I'm still here and I'm still making it through the day. And I feel like this whole experience is gonna just make me stronger. If I ever get pregnant again, I'm gonna be completely mentally prepared for the battle ahead, because this is what it's been, a battle. So I wish you, if you are pregnant, the best of luck in your pregnancy and in your labor. And I hope that it comforts you in some way, knowing that there are other people out there that don't enjoy being pregnant, and go through stuff and go through just weird things in their pregnancy that doesn't make it any more pleasant. So yeah, thank you so much for sticking around and listening, and I'll see you next time.